So thanks for the time today, Fred. Really appreciate it. First question, what is safety?
Oh, well, safety is entirely what you make it. And yes, that's a bit geeky in that it's a social construction and it's a shared understanding and things, but it's also how you kind of embody and enact it. So it's how you do it. You could be a super rules and regs safety person, or you could be a very fluffy culture safety person. But safety is what you bring to the show and the table, basically. And it's not just a safety professional thing. The most important place safety happens is actually people doing their regular jobs and embedding it in that. So it's all those different things, and it really is what you make it.
What do you think is a more productive set of measures for, if we assume safety also could be the presence of risk controls or presence of capacities? Let's just pretend that's the definition we want to take. Okay. What do you think is a more productive set of measures to actually try and measure that?
It depends what you're going to do with them. If all we're trying to do is increase by get better by 1% every year, well, you're gonna hit a wall anyway with that. But also it's how well that actually reflects what's going on. So when we're talking like presence of controls or capacity or things like measuring the ways we're managing safety, I'm always in a construction site, right? And I know how difficult that would be, given the fact. So construction's totally weird and different to pretty much anything else, because things in factories, things in fixed spaces, you tend to have the same environment. In construction, if you're not changing your environment on a daily basis, you ain't making any money. What would be a better set of measures? It depends what you're trying to do with it, actually, I think is going to be my super quick answer, but. Yeah, I don't have a whole fixing, mainly because in the construction environment, I don't think we've figured it out yet, if I'm honest.
The next one, this paper caused quite a bit of discussion, quite a few waves in industry. So your new blame paper.
Oh, no blame. Yeah. New blame, no blame. Yeah, for sure.
So you found that these no blame ideologies can unintentionally shape the interview discourse, influencing what sort of gets explored and what stays taboo. And now some people argued that these findings were very interesting, but they had limited applicability to the real world. And I mean, social media can be a really cruel and unforgiving wasteland.
Luckily, I didn't see any of it.
I'm on there every day, and it can be cruel. But what are your thoughts? Do you think these logics are present within industry and influencing real practice?
Absolutely. And this speaks to the methodology we used. I wasn't expecting to find it. It wasn't a study going, no blame, I don't like that, I'm going to prove it. It actually just came out of the data, and it was fascinating to see how it was shaping things. And we're kind of naive if we think having something so fundamental isn't going to influence what people do. And I was a bit surprised when you said people didn't think it had practical value. All you need to do, folks, is just be mindful. Just think, am I being influenced by the fact that I'm not allowed to blame somebody? And in construction, by the way, we're either over here or over here. There is no middle ground. So interestingly, and this didn't actually inform, it only struck me after we'd found it in the data. Anecdotally, lots of people in construction, because we've gone from 0 to 100 and nothing in between, nothing sort of sensible. In construction, we kind of, we go in studs up, feet first, far too hard. So everybody was doing a big no blame thing. Now, actually, I was in a meeting some years ago with a company who were doing a safety share, start the meeting, as you do. And they were telling the story about this crew who had gone to a site, there was a buried utility, it wasn't where they thought it was, they called somebody out, By the time the whole day had gone, they'd run out of time. So rather than dig it with insulated tools properly and hand dig it, they put the machine in and hit it, even after they'd done all this preamble. And then I said, oh my goodness, what were the consequences? And they said there weren't any, because this is a no blame organization. And I went, what? So you and these guys knew that they knew all the right things to do, and that's why they hadn't been blamed. But at the end of the day, instead of making the right decision to say time out, we'll do it tomorrow, they just threw the machine in and hit the utility and could have caused a serious accident. So luckily nobody got hurt. But I was like, but if the word gets round that these crew did that and they haven't had, nobody cares, what has that just done to your safety culture? And I'm really sorry, but that ain't the stories you want to be going around saying you can get away with anything here because it's no blame. And this kind of, it's the interview thing. I was always thinking of it in a practical sort of sense, but then looking at the data, and it wasn't me that found it, by the way. I was the one that, it was between a discussion and some of us going, am I seeing this? Is this what is going on here? And that's where it came from. So I think that the problem is everything about safety, people put stuff out there, but you need to understand how it's going to land and what people are going to do with it. Because no, you're damn right, we shouldn't be blaming people for having an accident and firing them. but there are legal protections in lots of countries other than this one for that sort of thing.
Based on your experience, what do you think then is a pretty sensible way to balance that tension between accountability and avoiding like maybe too much blame or unnecessary blame?
In terms of you just need to take a kind of good coat of looking at what's actually happened. I'm certainly not a blame the worker. I am on this. Having built a lot of things, I know what it feels like to be on a job site and how you've got so many competing priorities in what you're trying to do. So I think to actually how you would look at it, I think something that in the interview, when I was a superintendent, I knew all my people. I sat down for an hour a day. And the thing that worries me with more technology coming into construction is people are behind keyboards having to do a million emails. And what they're not doing is standing around on the job site talking to people. So it's about who's asking the questions, how you're exploring it, keeping a complete open mind. And yeah, there is sometimes it's accountability. And sometimes people need to be able to be said, that was a dumb decision. And we ought to have things where people can't. What we need to get to is a point where people's dumb decisions don't kill them. That's what we should be doing. And we should be redesigning construction work to still have good work, healthy work that people can crack on with, but in a way that the means of doing it means you're not going to die by default. We must be smarter than what we are now. We're building things the same way we did 300 years ago. Really?
But with more paperwork, yeah.
Yes, with more emails, so nobody can actually be out there helping folks. Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting, isn't it? Like we call supervisors supervising, but we don't give them a lot of time to supervise.
Nothing at all, mate. And it is, those roles are absolutely critical. And that you can tell every place is different because of the people who are in it. That's why it's socially constructed. Depends entirely who's there doing the constructing.
So the next one, another follow-on around your no blame findings. If you could, like if you went into an organization and they asked you, we need help to reform, to change the way that we approach investigations, the way we approach our engagement with people, to avoid the priming effect, I guess you'd call it, like making sure that we're not overly priming it towards this no blame ideology. What do you think you would actually change? Like one or two questions or practices?
I think the main thing to be clear is that you need to know the whole story, but the investigation isn't the conclusion. That's where it tends to fall down. And there are lots of biases. I mean, that piece of work was a side hustle to a bigger project, looking at what biases do commonly emerge. And you can spot these all over the place because people are biased. You're never going to get away with it. You can't not be. You're just a human. So here we are. And so I think the way to change it is not the questions you're asking. It's firstly how you're asking them, of course, is very important. But you also want to make it clear that all these interviews and things are just gathering information, and then the decisions are made, and then the analysis happens, and then you find out what were the pressures, what was the situation, what was going on. So it needs to be taken entirely out of the discussion at all, because you can't decide what the conclusion. You can't tell somebody they're not going to be blamed for something if they actually had accountability, and it shouldn't be. Probably won't be the decision of the interviewer anyway. So I think it's how you actually frame the process and are able to reassure the people who you need to talk to as to how this is going to go, rather than trying to make any presumptions about anything. But we are human and we are biased, and we're always going to do that. Pretty much. So it's just all about being mindful, really.
Do you see the investigation as a more of an objective fact-finding exercise or as a constructive process itself? Are we constructing causes rather than finding them?
I think, you're asking a social constructionist that. So, of course, we're always constructing everything. That's how the world works. I think we need to be, the way to frame it and pitch it is to actually explain that this is a collective way of deciding what happened and how. I mean, the number of accidents that are repeats is just insane. So, I mean, we can pretty much presume that what we're doing in terms of investigations right now aren't that amazing, because we keep doing the same bloody accidents for the same reason. Well, not the same reasons, obviously, myriad messy reasons and all this kind of stuff. So I think there are ways of doing it that you can do, because learning teams approach is a great idea. Actually get the right people in the room, but they then need to be able to speak, and it needs to be, those are quite hard. I would suggest that approaches, but then you also need to talk to people on their own, because people might not want to say stuff in front of other people, and but this is how, knowing everybody you're with rather than perhaps objectively, but then also if it is a situation where the person like the superintendent has influence and agency in the situation, they shouldn't be involved in it either. It's messy. It's really complicated. That's why there's a really good guide on the CSRA website that I wrote. So there you go.
There will be a pop-up. I do like CSRA's work, so
Yes. So that and there's all the entire, I mean, for folks interested in this, there's an entire suite of learning videos. You get to watch more of me talk. There's material on there. There's a check yourself tool that you can ask yourself. I wanted to call it Am I the Arsehole, but they wouldn't let me. So it's called Check Yourself. So you ask yourself, well, am I tired? Because if you're tired, you're probably going to be more biased. You're not happy. Shouldn't be doing an investigation. Jog on or let someone else do it. So there's a whole bunch of stuff there that backs up all this as well, by the way, just for the viewers.